We are live. Hi there, Namaste Kamcho from very Apnu, Ahmedabad. Welcome to the Recruitment Curry Show. I'm thrilled to host Jason Stewart, CEO of DRC Locums today on the Recruitment Curry Show. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kaitan. It's fantastic to be here. Always good to catch up with you. I've obviously known and worked with you for quite some time. A well-known individual in the offshore recruitment industry. So yeah, fantastic to catch up.
Thanks very much, Jason. And then today, obviously, offshoring is one of the most hottest topic in the market, especially healthcare recruitment. Uh, Being a concept back in 2010, 2013, which is when obviously we caught up Jason, having a discussion about offshoring, and now that there are several recruiting agencies, developing offshore teams. Some have worked really well. Some have tried, tested, and then which is the topic of the show today. How did you progress from obviously being a cynic once upon a time to now having a very large team in obviously surpassing 200 plus team members in a couple of countries and multiple cities. So yeah, we want to talk about your lessons, your learnings, and then for starters, what were your top major doubts when you thought that, okay, fine, should I have an offshore team for my business?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a very, very good question. And I guess it's how am I going to manage it? How am I going to hire people 3,000 miles away? How am I going to communicate with them? How are their communication skills going to be? How are my candidates and clients going to react to being called from India, the Philippines, Pakistan, rather than Manchester or Birmingham or, Milton Keynes? So those were very real doubts that we had when we started on our journey. I think, I've seen the market change rapidly over the past few years, and we wanted to expand rapidly in the UK. But there is a real war for talent. I think the unemployment rate in the UK is the lowest it's been in about 40 years. So trying to attract good people into the business is tough. We hire experienced people, we hire apprentices, but we really wanted to ramp up our sales force, and that was proving really difficult in the UK. We could have opened a number of offices across the UK, but then you've got similar management challenges that you have if you open up in India. So we really wanted to explore the market in India. We came out, we met with you guys. We could see some really fantastic work going on in the offshore industry. We were pretty convinced pretty quickly that we could build a substantial operation out there. And that's exactly what we've done. So we've got now 6 offices across a couple of countries, across India and Pakistan. We're opening another 2 offices in the next 6 months. So we're really excited about that. And we just see constant growth in the offshoring marketplace. So yeah, so we had to overcome a lot of skepticism. You speak to your team, and the first thing they're looking at is, why do you want to do that? Why not just expand the current team, expand the current office? Let's get some more floor space and let's just do that. Why do you want to go 3,000 miles away to explore building an office there when we can do it in the UK? And, that's very real. It's very normal. I fully understand that. These are issues that you have to talk through with your team. You also need really a management team that understands it's all about narrative and what you're trying to do with the business. And it was really getting that narrative right for the rest of the team in the UK, that actually it's a good thing for everybody. It's a good thing for the team in the UK because we're going to expand as a business. There's more opportunities. There's going to be more clients coming on board, more candidates coming on board. And we're going to grow as a business, and we're going to become an international business. So there's great opportunities internally for good individuals to do a lot of traveling, to take on a lot of responsibility, and to grow a business offshore. So that was kind of the rationale that we used. We had seen some other businesses go offshore and be very, very successful, so we could see there was something to it. I think there was also the push factor as well, which is, we have seen a lot of margin compression in UK healthcare recruitment. So it's really been led by UK healthcare. I haven't
Yeah,
really seen the IT and the finance go out, but it is starting to go out now. They're starting to explore the offshore space because of all the pressures I've just talked about. But certainly we had margin compression, and that really kind of helped push the process as well, because we had to
sure.
look at the costs.
No, definitely. So, in terms of the triggers, there were two triggers, if I were to read correctly. One is, attracting talent, and then, to enable the scale that you're looking at, because, what you're looking for is not a couple of people, but actually, hundreds of people to help scale the business. And two is the margin pressures, isn't it? These
Yeah.
were two major factors.
Absolutely. I mean, we are up to about 250 salespeople now, and you can only really expand that rapidly with an offshore solution. Trying to do that in the UK, apprentices, we get apprentices on board, and they're a fantastic, group of individuals. They are highly motivated. They want to learn, and they do a great job. But they can walk outside and walk into 15 or 20 different roles quite easily. So trying to attract that level of talent in the UK is really, really tough. Whereas with an offshore solution, it's a lot easier. There's a huge amount of talent, obviously, in India. There's a massive amount of talent, highly educated, excellent communication skills, and we found it to be, fantastic for the business and very successful.
So that was my next question. Of course, there's a lot of bad press, that has been going around over the years about the communication skills of offshore resources. How did you overcome that? Because I'm sure that was one of the major factors during the internal discussions, that somebody based in India, they'll have mother tongue influence. They're going to be talking to candidates in the UK, or my clients in NHS, in different roles. How did you overcome that? I'm sure you would have interviewed a number of candidates, or prepared a sort of a qualifier, benchmark for the type of people you want on board. What was the process?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly starts at the interview process. Obviously, you want to see that they have good communication skills. We do all our own interviewing, right? We don't leave that to any third parties to go and do. So we interview everybody to make sure they are the right individual with the right communication skills and they have the right motivation. They want to see, or they want to be in recruitment, and they want to be in recruitment for the long term. So I think really good hiring is very important. Really good qualifying of those future recruitment consultants is really important. But actually, we found that the communication skills were excellent. So we didn't have any issue with communication skills. All of our team, they have excellent English communication skills. They have no issues dealing with our clients or candidates. In fact, a lot of our candidates are from all over the world. So they don't really care where the person sits, right? As long as they get a good job, that's what they care about. Many of our candidates are from the Indian subcontinent, from Africa, from South America, and that those language issues aren't really an issue as long as they get the right job. So we didn't actually find that too much of a problem. And certainly in India, the communication skills are excellent, but you have to do the work to do the interviewing to get the right people on board. So that hasn't been a barrier for us at all. And we got a client team in India. They're speaking directly to all of our NHS clients, and they have no problem with that communication. So we haven't had any negative feedback from candidates or clients around that at all.
That's a big plus, definitely. And then this links in very well with your earlier point of the resistance faced from the team. And one of the major sort of factors that I've sort of experienced is the cultural approach, or culture sort of exposure to the culture of the destination you're offshoring to. How did you overcome that? Because it's very important from the onshore team and the offshore team, if they were to work together. You mentioned about the one team approach, that we're going to be doing this, and these are the objectives we want to achieve as a business. It's not us versus them. So how did you take your team through that process, to work through so many people, being in different cities and different countries?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to develop a good culture in your office in the UK to make it open to dealing with international offices, right? And the way we do it, we do a huge amount of communication through Zoom with the team in India. We're constantly on Zoom for hours every day. So there's a huge amount of communication. There's a lot of travel between the offices. Few of the management team had just got back from Dubai. We had an incentive weekend for the India team in Dubai. So there's that constant meeting of the team, and that's very, very important, because if you meet the team, then you get a completely different perspective on the individuals that you're dealing with. So if it's all very remote, if you're dealing with them through email or whatever, and Zoom to a certain extent, then it's just not the same as going out there, sitting down with the team, meeting them, getting a bit of their background, a bit of their life story, a bit about what motivates them. And you find actually the sales guys in India are exactly the same as the sales guys in the UK, as I'm sure salespeople are anywhere around the world. They're motivated by the same things. They want nice things. They want to work hard for those things. If they have an argument with their girlfriend, they come in, they don't pick up the phone, they sit there, they're a bit grumpy. That happens here in the UK just as it happens in India. So actually, I look at the team in India, I look at the Vishakhas and the Vishnus, and I see exactly the same issues and motivations as I do with the team in the UK. There is absolutely no difference whatsoever. Just because they're sitting 3,000 miles away doesn't mean they're completely different people. They're not, right? So it's all very similar. And, we find we don't have a problem with that. But the key is you've got to communicate with them. You've got to know who they are. I know the name of pretty much everybody in every office right across India, right? And that's very important. And they care when you care, right? So if you show interest in them, well, guess what? They show interest in you. I mean, I've seen competitors kind of do it, and they set up in India and it kind of doesn't work. And they say, oh, it didn't work because the Indians don't get what we do, right? Well, actually, it's not that they failed, it's that you failed, right? Because you didn't go and visit, you didn't know who they were. You wouldn't do that with an office. Say I set up an office in Manchester. You wouldn't never go up there, not know who the people are, and then just say, get on with it. And then suddenly it fails and you go, oh, well, people in Manchester don't know what they're doing. Well, that's complete nonsense, right? If you set up an office in Manchester, you'd go up there, you'd spend time up there, you'd, sit down with the guys, you'd motivate them, you'd be in constant communication with them. And that's how you build successful offices. Just because it's 3,000 miles away doesn't mean you do anything different. So I think, that's how we overcame those problems. And I think, we've got a very similar culture in India as we do here in the UK. And it's very, very positive and very good.
So at the end of the day, obviously it boils down to a couple of things. One is the commitment from the top management and the middle management to make sure that yes, we are going to make this work. There will be concerns, but knowledge transfer, training and development, and you give the analogy of spending time with your team, and I think that's one thing that you guys did very effectively of inducting and then onboarding the team members offshore, putting them through your training and development program as well, isn't it? Because every agency has a different way of working, different way of approaching their candidates, and then obviously be it front office, middle office, or back office. And then and three is obviously making sure that there is consistent communication, more through Zoom, and then obviously in advanced stages is through exchange programs. Either the onshore team members travel offshore, or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got a training team in India, so they really help drive the process. But we are also training on Zoom on a regular basis. And then we're going out there and we're training face to face as well. So there's that constant communication, both face to face and on Zoom and, virtually, that really works for us. And it's just that you've got to constantly train, just as you would train somebody in the UK. There's absolutely no difference. And that's where it fails if you don't put that time in, you don't have that commitment from your management team and from the rest of the team in the UK. It's just not going to work. If it's one or two people who are kind of driving the process and nobody else believes in it, then you're really going to struggle to get it up and running, because it's just going to be left to fester, there's going to be no interaction. And guess what? If you open any office anywhere in the world, whether it's up the road or, in another country, and you don't interact with it and you don't train the people properly, it's not going to work. And that's where we've seen others fail. Although I think people are getting better at it. The penny is dropping, and I fly into the airport in Ahmedabad a lot, and I'm starting to run into a lot of competitors on the flight and in the airport and at the hotel and all this kind of stuff, because there's a lot more people going out there doing, what we're doing. So certainly there's that drive to offshore. I personally think, that's the kind of future of recruitment. It's going to be, if you're dealing with a human, it's going to be in an offshore office, and the rest is going to be through technology. That's really the future of recruitment. So it is a process that is going. I mean, it's moving. It's going in that direction. Finance and IT are now starting to move out and offshore as well. And certainly, you've got to get that initial training and get the office up and running. But once you do, it pays huge benefits.
Totally. And then, one thing, from my experience and, working with several agencies is I've seen is, the offshore, or rather, agencies are now, or companies are now looking at it this way: go where the talent is, number one. And two is, there is less capability bias. And then, it's more so from, the analogy is more so from the healthcare perspective, that if the offshore resources can book a candidate into a 4-hour shift, they can book them, somebody into a 40-hour shift. So how did you manage that? Because one, there's a proximity bias because of the distance, and then the proximity bias breeds the capability bias that, okay, fine, onshore can do everything and offshore can do probably 10% of what the onshore can do.
Correct. Yeah. I've seen competitors do basically what you're talking about is take the lower value jobs, give that to the offshore team, and the team in the UK sits on all the nice long-term high margin bookings. That just doesn't work. That will fail, right? Because you really need a level playing field. You have to have a level playing field so everybody's motivated. There is no reason why someone who's booking a short shift job for a couple of shifts over a couple of days couldn't do 6-month long-term booking. They're absolutely capable of doing it. And our offices in India do both, right? So you have to have a level playing field, because that motivates the team in India, right? Because they see they're not going into a fight with two arms tied behind their back. And also what you get an uplift in performance in the UK. Because if you have that where only the best shifts or only the best jobs are kept in the UK, then people get, they sit back a bit and they think, yeah, this is all kind of protected. This is my business, right? Nobody else can touch it. As soon as you introduce that element of competition, you get an uplift in the UK in performance as well. And we have certainly seen that. There is no doubt about that. So you have to have a level playing field. It's the only way it works. You do get disputes. There's no doubt about that. But if you have, very clear, transparent rules around database contact, candidate contact, that sort of thing, that can all be overcome. And that works extremely well. And you'll see the benefits of that. And you'll have a very highly motivated offshore team that will improve its performance rapidly. If they just get left with the scraps, that never works, because it's tough. It's tough enough to start up, right? From scratch. And if you're getting the toughest jobs, the chance of you succeeding is, very, very low. And then in the UK, people say, oh, there you go, it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because it was set up to fail in the first place. That's why.
Totally. And in terms of the activities, again, there's a myth that the offshore can only deliver, on certain functions. Let's say, offshore is good at back office. Anything which is transactional, offshore will do it very well. But the moment you give them sales or a bit of compliance, there's a hiccup. So what all activities in your structure that you have are delivered offshore, Jason? Is it just sales or back office, or if you can talk?
No, it's everything. So we have a client team that deals solely with our clients. We've got a candidate team, deals solely with the candidates. We have a compliance team, got about 45 people now in compliance, dealing directly with all the doctors and nurses. And we've got a full finance team as well, everything. So basically we do the full life cycle of the recruitment out in India. And we find there's no issues with that. So, the people dealing with the candidates are very, very good at what they do. The guys dealing with the clients are very, very good at what they do. So there's no, just saying that you can only do back office jobs or you can only do middle office jobs is just, again, a bit of a bias that people have that just isn't, we haven't found that whatsoever. You can do the full life cycle out in India, no doubt about
but,
that.
but
Again, the
uh,
English skills are excellent. We have no problem with that. The team members that we have are all highly educated. They have university degrees. They're, very smart people, and they do a great job.
Definitely, and then, I'm sure this is also down to two factors. One is the service provider, the knowledge of the service provider, and two is the amount of time you invest in hand holding and training your offshore team to work as per your processes, because you must have those checks and balances in place to make sure that they are following your process. And then you sort of covered it earlier that if you leave them to fend on their own, it's not going to work. So making sure that that knowledge transfer is done through and through, after the transition, those reviews happen, are core elements. So how do you manage, from performance perspective? Because that's another question that a lot of people have. And, this is from my experience that, oh, okay, we're going to be having a team of 5, recruiters offshore. What happens if they don't work out? So how did you overcome these challenges when you started, back in 2017? Especially with your sales and compliance middle office.
Sure. So we developed a kind of suite of information on KPIs, which is all the basic stuff of call times, number of dials, number of referrals, reactivations, dropouts, all of that information. And we have that on every single RC right throughout all our offices. So we can see at a glance who's doing what, who's doing well, who's not doing so well. So we manage very, very closely all of those metrics. And with that, we can see, how we're doing. And we have a very granular, overview of the business. So we got a lot of detail there that we review. And that really helps us manage all of those operations out there.
Sure. Obviously you've got, a couple of hundred people working offshore, and attracting that talent to work for you, is obviously not been an easy job, especially in a highly competitive market. So what factors do you put in place to make sure that, people want to work for DRC? And then I'm sure, obviously there are things you mentioned about the Dubai trip that you did for one of your teams. Apart from that, what tips would you have for, others who want to, leverage this model?
Sure. I mean, we pay them well compared to the local market. So, successful people are well paid. There are incentive trips. We're transparent. We give a huge amount of communication. So anyone joining our company has access to the senior management team. And that's, crucial, right? So they know if they've got an issue, they know who to go to get the issue fixed, right? Whether that's their line manager, their team leader, their AOM, their director, one of the guys in the UK who they can speak to. So there are lots of different individuals that they can go to solve a problem. And recruiters like that because they come up against issues, every day, and they want to go to somebody to get them fixed. And we help them fix those problems, right? So we help them become more successful. And with that, they can grow, they can, build more gross margin, they can get more commission, they can go on incentive trips. So it becomes a good virtuous circle. So yeah, it's that interaction that they have and the ability to solve their problems and help them grow as individuals that is extremely important. And that motivates them. And that's why they come to join DRC, because they get that kind of interaction.
Totally, and then, this is a very crucial point. So you work with more than a couple of service providers, offshore. What's the logic behind working with multiple parties? And essentially, somebody would work with one partner to make sure that everything's sort of in one place, one-stop shop. What triggered you to work with multiple suppliers?
Sure. So offshoring, is pretty strategic for us as a company. So those suppliers are really strategic, and I simply don't want all my eggs in one basket. That's just not good business, right? So I don't want all my operations just with one supplier, because when it comes to negotiations, then that supplier has a lot of power. So I've spread the risk with a number of suppliers, and that really works for us. It gives us competition. between suppliers in India, which is really important, keeps everybody on their toes. And also it's good for internal competition with the sales teams because they're competing against each other, right? So it gives us those two benefits. And it just means that in negotiations, I'm in control, right? I'm not sitting there, at the end of a desk with somebody saying, here's the next set of pricing that we're going to agree. We don't have those kind of conversations. So it's really important that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. That's been, one of our key strategies that we've had right from the get-go.
Sure. So, and then that raises the question of maintaining quality, because you're working with multiple parties, and then obviously managing the performance, the logistics, the sort of challenges that comes, with okay, fine, how much time I'm going to dedicate with, which supplier and which team. How do you guys manage it?
Well, we spread ourselves between all the operations equally. So we're constantly, having an update with each of the offices. It's just that communication between offices. And importantly, the suppliers know that. So they know how much, how on top of our business we are. We know each of the individuals. We're the first one to hear if somebody's unhappy, right? And if there's somebody, we want to ensure they are happy, then, we let the supplier know about it. So we are all over our business and they know that. And that's really crucial to that kind of relationship. And that really helps us manage, the various suppliers.
Definitely. So, and then one of the aphorisms that I have is that, if you want offshore to be successful, treat your offshore team members just like you treat your onshore teams. Do you agree with this, Jason?
Oh,
And
totally. That's it's got to be transparent. It's got to be on a level playing field, and they have to feel that they're part of the team and they're equal to every other team member, in the business. That's absolutely crucial. If they feel like they're the poor cousins, well, guess what? They're going to perform like the poor cousins, right? They're not going to. You're not going to get the best out of them if they're sitting there thinking, well, we never hear from these people in the UK. We don't get any of the good jobs. We're sitting twiddling our thumbs. We get no direction. We get no training. Well, guess what? If that's how they feel, well, it's no surprise they're not going to succeed, right? And they'll move on somewhere else. So it's absolutely crucial that, they see themselves as equally important as anyone else in the business. And that's how we treat everybody.
So, in summary, to make offshoring successful, irrespective of the sector, you want to make sure that one is, you're committed, and that there's that messaging, across the team that it's just one of our branch offices, and then we have to make sure that we make it work, and then we do exactly everything to make those people successful as we do in house.
Correct.
Would that be the idea for anybody who wants to start? Obviously, then working it backwards in terms of scoping out what activities they want to offshore, and then working in tandem with the offshore partner, rather than just giving all through the okay, fine, start from tomorrow, and here's £5,000 worth of GM KPI from month one onwards.
Yeah, I mean,
would that work?
you've got to sell it to your UK team that it's not about replacement of jobs. You're not taking what they do and offshoring it. This is a complement to the office in the UK, to the team in the UK. And also what it does for the team in the UK, it gives them fantastic experience and fantastic, potential for their career going forward, because there's so many opportunities. We have people who were running small teams when they kind of came on board of 6 or 7 people, and they're now managing offshore teams of 100 people. So there's a huge amount of scope for individuals in the UK to interact with offshore teams. It's really good for their career, and it's good for their prospects. So it's a win-win for both parties.
Totally. So if there's a one giveaway, from Jason Stewart, about offshoring, and then moving from doubting the model to making it work, what would that be?
Go visit. Get on a plane and go visit. And go visit some of the operations in Ahmedabad. Go visit RPO Arena. Go and meet the sales guys. Go and speak to the sales guys. Right? You'll be absolutely shocked at what they're capable of doing and what they're billing. Because there's some fantastic billers. I know there's fantastic billers in your office, K-Town, right outside your door there, right? Okay. And so get on a plane and go visit these guys and see what's going on. That would be the one thing that everybody that goes and sees the operations out there, they're always shocked, and they come back and they go, wow, I didn't realize all of that was going on. So it's really about visiting India and seeing what's going to visit the operations.
I mean, as you already visited so many times, and I wrote this blog last year. That India, or rather Ahmedabad, is now mini Milton Keynes or mini Skipton. When it comes to healthcare recruitment, and then there are at least a couple of thousand recruiters working in the industry for some of the largest and then mid-sized healthcare staffing companies from the UK, and then now offices in Ahmedabad. So I think it's for the companies to leverage the model. Of course, you want to make sure that there's commitment. But you nailed it, Jason. Have a conversation, go visit, see for yourself, because this is exactly how things work. And you're one of the businesses that have leveraged it very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. Our plans are to open another 5 offices in the next couple of years. There's so much talent in India, so many people who have great communication skills, well educated, highly motivated, and it's a great place to do business. So we see it as absolutely core to our business going forward.
Fantastic. Jason, thank you very much for sharing your insights and being on the Recruitment Curry Show. And look forward to many more insights in the future.
Great. It's great to see you, Ketan. All the best. Thanks very
Jason.
much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.